Welcome back to a little bit of cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast. It is Friday, January 24th, 2025. It's been some time. It's been super cold. Car batteries are dying, but we're finding a way to stay warm, and we are back here. Sam, he's back from Nashville. He's detoxing a little bit, is what I've heard.
Much needed.
That'll happen. Nashville will get to you. We'll start at the top here. A lot of stuff going on with the Milwaukee Bucks. All-Star weekend is coming up. The All-Star voting is in. Of course, Giannis actually got the most votes out of anybody, which if you need any more of a nudge to think that Giannis should be your league MVP, there you go. But the big discussion here, Damian Lillard is not a starting All-Star for the East. I kind of want to get Sam's take here. Both Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell were selected over him. The numbers are pretty similar. I think you're kind of picking sticks here with this, but Damian Lillard, not an all-star starter.
No, he's not an all-star starter this year. It's hard for me to say that he deserves it. The Cavs are playing so good. I mean, they're arguably the best team in basketball right now, right up there with the Thunder. I'll probably give it to the Thunder because they just smacked around the Cavs pretty good. um,
Yeah.
Mitchell is leading his team, and Jalen Brunson is leading his team, and they haven't had sections at a time, weeks at a time of bad play where Dame and the Bucks have had some ups and downs. So
Yes.
as much of a Dame fan as I am, and he will be coming around, and he's a 10 times better player than both of those guys. I don't think anybody's arguing that. I'm not super mad at him missing the All-Star starter nudge this year.
Yeah, I think I agree wholeheartedly on that. But some good news coming out of it, I guess. Ajax, Andre Jackson Jr. is going to be in the dunk contest. Of course, not really a prestigious nomination here, but still pretty cool thing. I think you kind of gotta give a little bit here to Ajax. I think he might have a shot to go take it from what we've seen so far this year.
This is electric. This is the one of the coolest Bucks news stories I've heard in a long time. I mean, this is awesome. This young athletic kid that we've had waiting in the wings for a couple years now, and we've all known we have a freak athlete on our team. He came out pretty young from UConn, and we've all wanted to see him get the spotlight a little bit more, get some more playing time, have some more chances. He got his chances in the NBA Cup, and he absolutely showed up. He was on the big screen at ESPN for Milwaukee Bucks second year bench player. That doesn't happen very much. And now he's
Right.
going to have the spotlight on him again at the dunk contest. And I'll tell you what, I think Andre Jackson Jr. is going to have a long career in this league. He's going to be a defensive menace for hopefully a decade to come. And I love that this dunk contest is going on for him. I love that he's in it. It's probably hiking his next contract up quite a bit. So we'll see where that ends up going for the Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, dunk contest is whatever. It's not the home run derby. I'll say that. It's not the home run derby. It's not your NFL All-Star dodgeball game either. That one might be everybody's favorite. But with all the All-Star stuff, the Bucks have been playing very well as of recently. They were stuck in New Orleans. That game was actually postponed, but they didn't fly into Milwaukee until yesterday to play the Heat. And then while flying there on the same day, went to five serve and absolutely beat the crap out of the Miami Heat. Final score 125-96. And my quote, actually my Zoom name here is Fruit at the Hotel. That comes from Giannis's post-game presser when they asked how they were able to get through the adversity of having to fly the same day of. And Giannis said, "Oh, we had to fly the same day of. It was a 2 hour flight was really rough when we got to our 5 star hotel. It was terrible. I mean, we got whatever fruit we wanted. He put things in perspective, and any fan anywhere should kind of love that answer because Giannis is kind of just coming down to earth saying, yeah, this isn't real adversity. We had to fly and play a basketball game the same day. Like that's not true adversity. So kind of a little nod to that. But the Bucks kind of hot right now. And I'm going to give the floor to Sam Douglas here. State of the Union for the Milwaukee Bucks here as we reach middle of the season.
42 games through an 82 game schedule. That's just about halfway. We know we started out pretty slow. 2-8 is where we started out after our first 10 games. Since then, we're 23-9. That's a lot better than 2-8. 22 wins, 9 losses, and a lot of those losses did come in that rut right after the NBA Cup as well. So I don't know. Are we looking at like a 23-4 outside of one little downturn? This Bucks team is hot. They are playing well. There is another level to this Bucks team that we haven't even seen yet. Damian Lillard last night, 29, 11, and 9. Almost
Yeah.
a big old 30-point triple double from the guy. Again, coming in and dealing with outside of your routine, whether it was stressful or not. These professional athletes are creatures of routine and creatures of habit. So something was thrown off in their day, and they responded. That's what you love to see. I got some I got some numbers from where the Bucks stand throughout the whole league at this halfway
Mhm.
mark. Everybody's right about halfway. Some of these might shock you. Maybe some are just little conversation bites. Right now, they are sixth in the league in field goal percentage. They're also sixth in the three-pointers made, but second in three-point percentage. The Cavs are the number one three-point shooting team in the league right now. Bucks are number two right behind them.
Wow.
That being said, we're second to last in free throw percentage. A lot of that has to be Giannis, but as a team, we're shooting 73%, Cody. That's awful.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, no, that really is. That's
We are we were last in offensive rebounds, last in the entire NBA in offensive rebounds, 8.5 a game. We're
Brooke and Bobby.
first in defensive rebounds. We are leading the league in defensive rebounds.
Brooke and Bobby. No, just
On our
kidding. Brooke
opponent's
isn't getting any
fifth.
rebounds.
He's not. He's a team defensive rebound guy. So, and that's a big perk of having
Hmm.
Brook on this team is that when shots go up, Brook doesn't go get the board. He finds the biggest guy on the floor and pushes him out of the way.
Yeah.
So whether that's giving Giannis an extra 3 rebounds a game or not, I'm here for it.
I mean, just all I'll say is don't ever bet the over on Brooke Lopez total rebounds. That I've seen that go against so many people close to me in my life. Just that's a tough one. You got to stay away from that. That's all I'll say. No, those are good numbers. They're interesting. I think Giannis is at fault for a lot of them, like the field
Mhm.
goal percentage being as high as it is, the free throw percentage being as low as it is, the rebounds defensively being as high as they are, or offensively, where he's playing a lot of ISO ball. And he's actually putting up quite a few shots from the mid range, and he doesn't have as many opportunities to go get the offensive board. I think that's a lot of reasoning for it. And that it's the identity of the Milwaukee Bucks. It is Giannis, but your 3-point shooting I think is your biggest key that you have to take away from this. AJ Green has stepped up in a big way. Tarian Prince has stepped up in a big way. And you have one of the greatest 3-point shooters of all time in Damian Lillard. You have to give some credit to Horst for bringing in these guys that can shoot from beyond the arc because even though you had some really great Bucks teams there, even won a championship, the 3-point shooting was not tops in the league. Now they're in that stratosphere and it can take them to newer heights.
Along with them hitting these threes at the second highest clip in the league, they're also defending them really well. The defense
Mm-hmm.
has what has supported this Bucks run. We knew all along the offense was going to be there, and whether it was Dame or Giannis or honestly Bobby, if everybody's having an off day, we know that we have guys that can put the bucket in the hole. On top of being that second in the league at 3-point shooting, we're the number one team in 3-point percentage differential. So we're hitting our shots at a higher clip than our opponent every single game. And that's also a
Okay.
Giannis effect because he's drawing everybody in and then he kicks out. And if you get the right guys around him and you can defend the three, it's going to be fantastic numbers. We're also leading the league in opponent blocked shots per game. We're not getting our shots blocked, and that's by a considerable number. We're only getting 3.9 shots blocked per game. And at that point, if we're hitting that high of a clip, if we're not getting our shots blocked, if we do have a top third in the league field goal percentage, I'm fine with the offensive rebounds not being there. That's not our emphasis. We're here to hit threes, get back on defense, and defend the three as well. And it's showing up in the numbers as you look halfway through the season. So there has been a plan from Doc, and we can see it in the numbers. It took us a little bit to get there, but after having a 10 to 12, 13 game stretch to start the season that are really sinking the numbers of what the Bucks had, for them to be in the top third of the league in a lot of important metrics, I think that's huge. And it just goes to show, man, This Bucks team, they have a different level. Damian Lillard has a different level that he hasn't touched yet, and he's just starting to get going. Did you hear about his phone call with Vin Baker?
No, I'd love to hear it though.
Vin Baker called him up, a Bucks assistant coach, called him up a couple weeks ago, called Damian Lillard. And he told him to start being himself. And Dame said that phone call on a Tuesday night where an assistant coach, Vin Baker, just called him up in his free time, which is kind of interesting because they have a lot of time at the practice center together. They play a lot of games, they
Uh-huh.
hang out a lot. He
Right.
called him up in his free time and said, Dame, it's time to go. And Dame said that completely shifted his mentality. He's felt different since then. His numbers are different since then. And I don't want to say it's a good thing when Giannis is calling for the ball and Dame ignores him, but it's exciting. It's exciting to see that confidence from Dame where he now knows that he can say, Giannis, I got it.
Yeah, that was the whole discourse when Damian first got to the team, and there was some turmoil offensively for that Bucks team between should Giannis be the guy or should Dame be the guy? And we're all going to be honest, regardless of how Damian Lillard treats the game, Giannis is going to put up an average 30 points. Like that's just the type of player he is. Like you can try to feed him, but regardless, when he gets the ball in his hand, he's going to go score or he's going to dish it out, and the Bucks are going to find a way to do it. When Dame can start to take over these games, you find playoff wins like strictly because of how a Damian Lillard can play when he can take over in the fourth quarter and be that closer and have that confidence and not worry about anyone else on the floor. But when he dials into that bucket and he'll shoot it from anywhere, that's how you steal games in the playoffs. That's how you go win an NBA championship. So yes, that confidence where Dame isn't second guessing what he's supposed to do with the ball. When he's feeling it, let it fly. Because he's going to be there. He's going to get your boards. He's going to score. He's going to do his thing. Dame, can you do your thing as well? And I think they got enough pieces around where when Dame starts to take over and they put more defensive efforts towards him, you have a Green out there sitting in the corner. You have other guys that can be implemented into this offense. So if you get Dame into that zone, it makes everybody else better too. To have two studs out there that can do whatever they want, everybody else on the floor just has more opportunity to hit that high ceiling.
I'm so excited for what he's going to bring to the table. I have been a Dame Lillard fan my whole life since he came into the league, since he made that game-winning buzzer beater shot as a rookie. I've been
Yeah.
following his career. He doesn't want to cause problems, and I think you can see that in the way he played and what he was
Uh-huh.
going on with his own life. And we've seen this happen in the NBA before. I mean, we all remember the Draymond Green, Kevin Durant end of game situation where Draymond wanted to bring it up and Kevin Durant is clapping and yelling at him, and then they go yell at each other on the bench. And I think some of these issues with star level talent has been so forefront of the media that nice guys from the Midwest and nice guy Dame Lillard doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. But I'll tell you what, when you're fighting for NBA chip, when you're fighting to be best team in the league, and you got to scratch and claw to get there because you find yourself in a hole, it's okay to piss some people off because you're gonna have to do something outlandish that you didn't
Yeah.
expect. You got to go ruffle a little bit of feathers. And this team is so hot, Cody. Past 5 games, we've scored 120 every single game. We're 5-0 in the past 5 games. The offense is on a roll. We held the Heat to 95 last night. I trade deadline's coming up. Let's get into it. But at 5 games, scoring 120 plus, I don't know how much shaking up we really want to be doing. What do you think?
Well, you're kind of taking my question from you because I know where you've stood on this before, where you said that this team is good. The roster's where it needs to be. The capital's not there, but we do have a couple of names. So let's just take the logic hats off and just think here. Okay, how could these guys fit in if you were to trade a Bobby Portis as a centerpiece? Because that is the name that's also being thrown out there in these media circles that the Bucks are trying to shop Bobby even if it's not aggressively, they're looking around. That is evident. That has been reported on. But the names that are thrown out there is Zach LaVine and Bradley Beal. I have my own opinions on these guys. I think they're both very solid players. but how do you think they would fit into a Bucks roster that is constructed the way that it is, where you have your two superstars? Because Bradley Beal at one point was on that brink of being a superstar, and Zach LaVine has kind of always been a really solid player that you can't shove into the star role, but he can take over on some nights. Those are two interesting players. Do you think that they would be positives for Milwaukee to go out and try to get?
Bradley Beal would be signing Bradley Beal would be the single biggest mistake of any sports team I've been a fan of in
Yep.
my whole life. I've seen
Yep.
some terrible moves. Whether it's Packers, Brewers, Bucks, any team I've ever been part of, I think if we went out and got Bradley Beal, I would be more disappointed in a front office as I've ever
And we've
been.
seen Matt Garza pitch in a Brewers uniform. Like, we've seen some bad things.
It's all bad. So no, I don't want Bradley Beal at all because we would have to give up Chris Middleton. So for the way for these contracts to work is being a second apron team, we can't aggregate players right now. So we'd have to unload some contract so that we can aggregate players to get, whether it's Levine or Beal or I don't know. I hope it doesn't sound like it's Jimmy Butler, but kind of like we talked about on Monday, there's actual reporting on this. This is coming out of the Bucks camp. This isn't just, Twitter heads talking about it. They are shopping players right now.
Yeah.
And if we're getting rid of Chris Middleton, I'd rather have Chris. I said I'd rather have Chris than Jimmy. I'd rather have Chris than Bradley Beal. He's also been injured. He's also not playing. He's older than Chris Middleton. And Chris knows everybody. He's a better facilitator. Zach LaVine, I could come around to it. The reason that I would get interested in Zach LaVine, if we're shopping Chris Middleton, I hope it's because our medical staff knows that Chris isn't a long-term answer. I hope if they are shopping Chris, they know these ankles just aren't going to cut it. They if they know his health and you can cash this Chris Middleton check in one more time as a Buck and use him as an asset, and you can pull it off and bring in Zach LaVine, who's younger, who's athletic, who can be a cutter. We saw this work with the Aaron Gordon situation in Denver. Just having that electric cutter, that third guy who isn't going to go average 25 a night, but he's changing defense. He's something that the Bucks don't have already. You could convince me that Zach LaVine is a legitimate answer. I want to give a shout out to the Eurostep podcast. I've seen this trade bopped around a couple times. I got a theoretical 5-way trade that seems to make sense for everybody. It's been bounced around.
Please.
Bucks taking Zach LaVine and Kevin Love. If we get rid of Bobby Portis, we need a big. Got to get rid of Bob. He doesn't
another
fit
big old, another old slow big. Yeah, perfectly. Yes,
that's what we need. Some sort of big, and that's what the disappointing thing about this year's draft for the Bucks is because we knew that we were skinny at center, and we chose a flyer on a really young Tyler Smith, and maybe he's going to work out 3 years from the road. But if we move on from Bobby, Cody, we have nobody to play center.
Yeah, it's rough. No, it is very thin, and you can have a lot of criticism for the way that Horst has handled these past few draft classes because they've been content with a Brook Lopez leading the helm, which has been fine for the most part, but it's not going to be fine when you look down the road. So, yeah, I mean, you can look and bring in a Love, I guess, but I would like for you to look a little bit younger. Maybe like 32 would be fine, not 38.
There's also some Patrick Williams rumors going around. I think he would fit in really well. So he's in Chicago right now, I believe, as far as a stretch 4 or 5, just somebody to put a big body out there. But if we're looking to make a splash, Zach LaVine is the one that I could be convinced. But again, we would need to find some sort of big to come in because Bobby would have to be out the door, and we would need somebody to be a big presence. And if that means Giannis plays center and he's actually our center for the back half of this season, I don't want him to be a center on the long run. I think it's going to beat up his body, and we don't want to see Giannis banging down low with guys that have some girth on him. But if that's what we do for this back half of the season is play Giannis at center, and if Zach LaVine's going to be the piece that cracks it, I don't know. We scored 120 in 5 games straight. We're 5-0. What are we forcing it here?
Yeah, I think you would be at this point. As hot as the team is, the fact that you know that they can play better, and that they did play at that high level to go get that NBA Cup. And they were able to bounce back very shortly after with the fatigue and whatnot. I think this team is solid. I think they're deep. I think when you look down the future, you got to look at some youth, really. But I think the team is set for this year. That's where I stand. But I think a Zach LaVine would be an interesting piece that a lot of people could hop on because of the youth that he has and the fact that the Bucks don't really, and they haven't really had a player quite like him that could cut towards the basket. So I think that would be the most interesting one that people would go for. And I'm not expecting much, but we'll see what they do. They've pulled off some big splashes before. We'll move into college basketball now. Badgers basketball had a very interesting loss on Tuesday, 85-83. They are at UCLA. And I have some numbers here because if you look at the stats for this game, I have no idea how Wisconsin lost. And I'll be honest, I did not watch this game. I know that they had an opportunity to win with Tanjay shooting a three from the corner at the end of the game. He wasn't able to hit it. And of course, a lot of people on Twitter were angry, and then other people were saying it's fine. It's Big Ten basketball. That's kind of how it's going this year. But the numbers here, of course, the 2-point loss, Wisconsin shot from the field 51%, where UCLA shot 50.9%. From three, they shot 48%. UCLA shot 31%. They only hit 6 threes, where Wisconsin hit 15. Free throw percentage, Wisconsin had 85%. UCLA had 75, where UCLA only had 3 more free throw makes than Wisconsin did. You look at total rebounds, Wisconsin wins 32-30. Offensive rebounds, they lose by 3, 13-10. Defensive rebounds, they win 22-17. Assists, very similar. UCLA did have 3 more blocks. They had 3 more steals, but it was the turnovers. When you look at it, that's what it was. They played well offensively. You look at the turnovers, Wisconsin had 13, where UCLA had 6. But I just don't understand how you can shoot and make 15 threes shooting at a 48% clip and find a way to lose it. So really it comes down to ball security. I don't know how much you've watched of this team, but they're ranked 18th now. They'll probably drop a little bit more after this UCLA loss. How much are you reading into that game that happened in Los Angeles?
I hope they're reading into it more than me. I hope that they took that seriously. In the long run, as a fan, I don't think that is super concerning when we get into March. It seems like a one-off
Mhm.
event, and it seems like there's a lot more positives than negatives to take away. But I hope in the locker room they're pissed off about it because I think they gave it away. They did everything right, but you're going to lose the steals, the blocks, those are hustle stats, and you're going to lose the turnovers. That's mental. That's that. Hey, run, boys, take some laps. I hope
Yeah.
they took that loss seriously because you shouldn't lose that. It's a little different. Marquette lost the game to Xavier that they shouldn't have recently as well. A different type of loss. They were down 19 points and they clawed back and they brought it to within 2 and ended up losing. Now that's a moral victory because they could have given up. When you're down
Right.
19, there's 10 minutes to play, and you're losing in all the stats. You're not hitting your shots. I think their 2 best shooters were 2 for 16 shooting from 3 that day, and they still managed to cut it close. That's a moral victory for Marquette. This is a moral loss for the Badger team. It's a loss and a moral loss. I think you got to be happy with the shooting. The shooting has been there all year long. It's what's been keeping
Mhm.
them as a top 25 team. So we're doing some good stuff on the coaching staff on that end of things. But if you're going to lose turnovers, steals, and blocks every single game, you're going to be out of the tournament real quick.
Yeah, I don't expect for this to continue because they've been playing well in that sense as of before that, when I say recently. But yeah, tough loss for Wisconsin. I know you talked a little bit about Marquette and the Golden Eagles. You follow them a lot more closely than I do. If you want to give them a little bit of a shout out and kind of say where the Golden Eagles are at this point in the year, as you stated, a tough loss in the middle of the season for them.
Tough loss. Yeah, they lost again to DePaul Recently. DePaul took him to overtime. That's not a team he should be losing to, but hey,
Nope.
college basketball, man. This Marquette team, I've had a chance to watch a few of their games recently. They are a defensive juggernaut. Everybody's moving all the time. They are well coached. They are locked in. Everybody's feet are moving all the time. The hands are all out wide all the time. It reminds me of it's not a 2-3, but it feels like the how locked in and together the Jim Boeheim Syracuse defenses looked. How everybody's on a string, everybody's together. Shaka Smart
Mhm.
has these boys together. They are playing really, really strong defense. And Cam Jones, man, he's going to be a bucket at the next level. He might end up being more of a Cam Thomas bucket where that's all he does is get 24 and 1 a game. But this is a kid who can find his shot, and when things start to fall for him, he's absolutely electric. He's got to put about 20 pounds of muscle on him before he's legitimate in the NBA. But Cam Jones, he will have an NBA career. He's putting up shots that other guys aren't taking, and he's hitting them, and you can see the swagger, and he's got NBA talent written all over him.
The pieces that Marquette has, you can look at a deep run here, but you got to continue to stay consistent, really, is what the name of the game is there. And that goes for both Wisconsin and Marquette. Just consistency. They both lost some tough games against some teams that you didn't expect to. We'll see how those shake up as we inch closer and closer to March. We'll do a little bit of Packers stuff, some news circulating the team. They are going to bring back Luke Getsy, of course. He was there with Matt LaFleur and Stenovich when they came in, and LaFleur was initially hired by Green Bay. Getsy was part of those teams that won Rodgers an MVP, and then Getsy was hired as the offensive coordinator for Chicago. He really struggled with Justin Fields, was shipped out of there, and was fired midseason from Las Vegas this past season. He worked with Green Bay in the second half of the season after he was fired as kind of a consultant. He helped out the defense by providing different offensive looks. And Green Bay, they're signing him. Of course, this comes after the retiring of the quarterback coach. I can't remember. The
Was that Tom
Collins?
Clements? Clements?
Clements, yes, Tom Clements, who's probably one of the most important Packers coaches of all time. I'm sorry that I forgot his name, but he has since retired, and Getsy could possibly help in that role. I think overall this is a positive move for Green Bay to bring in a guy that you're familiar with, who had some success with the team. No, he didn't have great stints in Chicago or Vegas, but I'm not going to fault him that much because of the situations that were at hand with those franchises.
Yeah, when you're dealt a young Justin Fields, it feels like you are kind of strapped. And when you go to Vegas and you're dealing with Aiden O'Connell on a good day, I get it. I get
Yeah.
the struggles that he was going through. It's definitely good to have a familiar face and a little bit of love in that quarterback room, because we have Malik Willis there for sure, but he's not a 34-year-old vet. Clemens was the
Mm-hmm.
stronghold for that quarterback room. Um, since Favre. I mean, so that
Really.
it is going to be a big miss. Not having Clemens, but having a familiar face, Getsy, someone that knows the guys, someone that knows what's going on in the building. I think that's going to be huge. It also sounds like Halfley is staying. He did interview a couple spots. He took the interview for the
Mm-hmm.
the Jets head coaching job was the main one I saw. But it sounds like he's going to be staying in Green Bay, which is also huge for the Packers.
Yeah, it really is. And I think the Jets, they signed Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for Detroit. I find that kind of funny because things are not going to go well. That's just not like Glenn for the most part with Detroit. Those were some rough defenses, like really, and that was his strong suit. Maybe he's a better head coach than he is a defensive coordinator, but that was kind of the problem circulating these head coaching openings because there really wasn't a lot of guys to pick from. Like the good coaches are already coaching. It's hard to find that young, sexy offensive mind like a Matt LaFleur to bring in or a Sean McVay. Those don't come around all that often. And there was a stretch there for about 3 years where it seemed like one team was finding one every single year. Not really the case at this point in the NFL. And it goes through these stretches. But I think the Jets missed. I think Green Bay takes a little bit of a deep breath and an exhale. Did you hear Rich Bisaccia was possibly looked at by the Dallas Cowboys as well? for their head
They
coach
can have
opening.
them. They can have
That's
them.
that's kind of what I said too. A lot of people think that Bisaccia is going to be back in Green Bay, which I can be content with at this point, but he does need to do his job better. If someone wants to sign him to be a head coach, absolutely go take it. Yeah, yeah. Bisaccia can go lead the troops. But that's kind of the news circulating Green Bay, as of course they're not here on this NFC championship weekend. Sam and I touched on it a little bit earlier this week, but
Mhm.
Philly, Washington, Kansas City, Buffalo. I think the real toss up here is going to be in the AFC between Kansas City and Buffalo. I really like this game. I think this is going to be close. I think it's going to come down to the last 2 minutes of the ball game and who has the ball last in their hands, because that's what we've been treated to when these two teams meet up. The NFC, I think Philly's overall better, but boy, you love to see Jaden Daniels and what he can do. So my two predictions, I think we're going to get Philly, and I think we're going to get Kansas City for a rematch. Sam, I think you might be a little bit higher on Washington than I am at this point.
I'm a little higher on Washington. Hey, I've got no reason to believe anything other than incredible things are coming from Jaden Daniels. I've been a fan of this kid. I'm not going to say for that long, but about halfway through the season, I started paying attention. I'm like, you know what? This kid's electric. He's a pocket passer first, who's also an elite runner. And I think that's what's
Mhm.
different about him than your Lamar Jacksons, than your Michael Vicks, is that this guy is a bona fide pocket passer who
Yeah.
can organize a no huddle offense in fourth downs in a playoff game on the road in a no huddle situation. What rookie does that? What rookie has that much control over a situation?
I've never seen it, and that's kind of the reason I'm going Philly here, is because we just don't see rookie quarterbacks play that way. And to this point, the kid's been darn near perfect. He's too young to be perfect. There's got to be a mess up and a slip up at some point here on this playoff run. And I think it's going to come against a really tough Philly team. And this is no slight against Jaden Daniels, because he has had an incredible run here as a rookie, one of the best that I think I've seen from a rookie quarterback. But I just think Philly is tough. I think Saquon is going to be able to do too much against that Washington defense. Yes, they're solid, but I think Saquon can eat them up. And Jalen Hurts hasn't had to do much. If they start to unlock him a little bit more too, that's a Philly team that might be the most talented in the NFL.
That's unlocking Jalen Hurts is a double-edged sword for Philadelphia. That if he starts throwing a little bit too much,
Yeah.
I think Washington is also going to be okay with that. They did go out and get Marshawn Lattimore, who might be a couple years past
Yeah.
his prime, but he's not going to miss an easy pick. And I think that's the argument for Philadelphia right now is they're not going to give you the mistakes that other teams have given you. Tampa did make a couple mistakes. They blew a fourth down. Detroit had Jameson Williams throwing the ball on a crucial play. I think Philadelphia, and when you get into the NFC Championship and if you get into the Super Bowl, you're finding the teams that aren't going to give you anything. They're going to take advantage of what you give them, and they're going to absolutely capitalize. And if you have a rushing offense like Philadelphia has, who can just take the air out of the ball and go on a 9-minute drive whenever they want, that can absolutely win and stamp a game. But hey, Jaden Daniels has an opportunity to stamp himself in immortality this weekend, and that's also an electric game. But it's not coming close to this Chiefs Bills game at all either. This should be the Super Bowl. These are the two best teams. This is what everybody wants to see. It's Josh Allen, it's
Mhm.
Patrick Mahomes. Um, I don't think either one of them want to give up a possession the whole game. I think we have two of the best 10 quarterbacks ever to lace them up, and neither one of them want to go a possession without scoring points. So it might be a low scoring game because I think we're going to have long possessions. It might be 50-50 because I don't think either one of these guys want to get off the field without putting points on the board.
You think Josh Allen is top 10 all time right now?
Um, Talent wise, yes.
I can live with that. All right. Let's see how the legacy shakes out, because he hasn't even been to a Super Bowl. His career's still young, hasn't won an MVP. Yeah, he's really fun to watch. We've seen a lot of guys that are really fun to watch, but this is where Allen can really start to cement his own legacy. If he can win this game, then I think you start having those conversations because of what he's been able to do. I think he's going to win his first MVP this year. Whether I agree with that or not, it feels like he's the favorite and he's going to get that done. Maybe he can check a couple things off his list, but trying to climb the mountain, trying to take down Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, that's a pretty tall task for anybody in the NFL here in the 2020s. We'll see if they're able to do it. One of the best days of the entire year is NFL Championship weekend. That is one of the best times of the year for sports. Absolutely 7 hours of just guys playing their hearts out for maybe their only opportunity to go make a Super Bowl. And as we ended here on this Friday, wanted to leave us with some good vibes, as of course there's a lot of turmoil out in the world, and we already gave our cheese grater this week. We already had our headline predictions, but now for this final segment, it's going to be What's Gouda. My What's Gouda for this week is understanding that Goody is going to be aggressive here in the offseason. You got a lot of cap space. You see a lot of rumors circling the team. Maybe they go out and trade for a receiver, a DK Metcalf, a Garrett Wilson. Maybe they find Max Crosby. Maybe Devontae Adams suits it back up in green and gold. But that is my What's Gouda for this week. It's going to be Goody will be aggressive this offseason.
Finding the right piece can mean so much, Cody. And that's my What's Gouda. Shout out CC Sabathia. Some of the most electric 5 months in the Brewers team history, man. He showed up at the All-Star break and brought us to the playoffs. He's in the Hall of Fame now. One of my favorite players. I did have the chance to go see him playing for the Brewers at Miller Park once.
Really?
Shout out CC Sabathia. Well deserved.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of the greatest ever to pitch in a Milwaukee uniform, and he was only there from the trade deadline. What he did, look at his numbers. I think he had 7 complete games, just put the team on his back to get to the playoffs for the first time in 26 years. CC Sabathia, one of only 3 left-handed pitchers now to have over 3,000 strikeouts. So we'll end the show on that. That is What's Gouda for this week. NFL Championship weekend is this weekend. Sam and I will be back on Monday to go over it. This has been another edition of A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast.